Hello and welcome. This is Atul Warkar, your instructor. In the last session, we have discussed about the variables and their declaration. We have also seen the different rules to assign some variable names. In this lecture, we are going to discuss about the data types in Python, and we are going to understand what exactly the data type means and how to use different data types in Python. So basically, data type means the type of information that we are handling. As a human beings, we are dealing with lots of information, and we are processing that information, and based on that information we are taking some decisions or judgment. As a human being, we are dealing with some different kinds of information. So as far as the human beings are concerned, we are coming across lots of information around us, and we process that information, and based on that information we take some judgment. For example, the room temperature is 25 degrees centigrade, or I got 20 or 80% in 10, or this is the numeric kind of information that we are handling, and based on that information we can take some judgment, or we are processing that information. So when we talk about the computers or the electronic machines, the machine also has to deal with the similar kind of data, and it has to perform some activities based on the information available to it, and based on that information the machine can take some judgments, or some actions are dependent on the available information. So as far as the human beings are concerned, what kind of information we are dealing with? So number one is the numbers. So we are dealing with numbers like 10 liters of petrol, or maybe 100 rupees. We are dealing in terms of some numbers, in terms of when we talk about some the currency notes and all. Then the temperature is 24.2 degrees centigrades, and so on. So here when I talk about the numbers, the two different aspects of number are: the number can be a whole number, integer number, and secondly the number can be a floating point number or the fractional numbers as well. For example, 24.3 degrees centigrade room temperature is the floating point number, and when I say 10 liters of fuel, that means it is the whole number or the integer number. So the number can be negative as well as positive, and again they can be floating point or the fractional numbers as well, and we deal with such numbers in our daily life, and based on these numbers we take some decisions, and our activities are based on our numbers or whatever numeric information that we have. Secondly, we also send some text messages, sometimes emails to our friends. So maybe from mobile phone you can send some text messages to your friends, or from the social media platforms we interact with each other, we share information in the form of text, and again that is playing a critical role in our day-to-day activities. Secondly, now we read books, that is also textual information, so we actually deal with this kind of information as well. So after reading book we can take some action, so we can derive some fruitful information that we exchange is the image. So we send lots of images on social media platform, and even on the WhatsApp or Facebook, on Twitter. So that is again the source of information that conveys some sort of information. Video, again, yes, we send some videos, we watch some movies, we watch YouTube videos, that is this thing, that is the video, that is also the source of information. Speech, we interact with people with the help of speech, we speak with other people, so there some information is being exchanged in the form of speech. Even we can have some audio books as well, so that is the speech information. So in order to just summarize all those things, so in our daily life, these are the examples, or these are some categories or data types that we are dealing with. So as far as the human beings are concerned, these are some data types, and again there can be some derived data types from this, or there can be a subcategories, like numbers can have the floating point numbers as well as some whole numbers. So basically we are dealing with such kind of data types in our daily life. But this time I'm not talking about the human beings, I am talking about the machine or the computers or the electronic system. Now, as I have already said, by this technology, maybe IoT or artificial intelligence or machine learning, we are going to replicate the human activities in the machine, or we are just going to make a clone of human brain in the machine. So whatever data we are processing, the similar data the machine must be able to process. But this time the names of data type could be different. So this is how we treat data in our daily life, and these are some types of data that we understand or we deal in our daily life. But when I talk about the machine, there can be a similar data. For example, the numbers in the machine are treated as integer or float. The text in the Python can be treated as a string, and the image, as it is the matrix, so it can be treated as integer, and it is the matrix of color intensity, so it can be treated as the integer. The video again is the sequence of images, so it can be treated as the integer again. The speech can be treated as the floating point number or the array of floating point numbers. So this is how we represent information on our daily life, and equivalently we can represent the same information in computers or in machines. So let's have a look the data types in Python. Okay, so these are the data types in Python. So first one is numeric data type, and under that we have three different categories: integer, float, and the complex numbers. We have string as a data type, and again there is str as only one type in that. Sequence type, like we have list, tuple, and range. Mapping type, we have dictionary as a data type. As a set type data, we have set and frozen set. Boolean type data type is also there, we have to deal with that, it's bool. And the binary data type like bytes, bytes array, and the memory view. So these are some data types in Python that we have to understand, and we are going to learn all these data types in detail. So we'll start with the numeric data, and then we'll discuss about the list, tuple, range, and dictionaries in upcoming few lectures. So we are going to understand this data type, and we will start writing some code in Python or on the Python shell in order to understand the different data types. Okay, so now I will open the Python shell. So here I am searching for ideally, and now I am opening the ideally, the Python's interpreter and the default IDE. So how we can declare a variable? So we have understood how to write the variable name, and here I am writing a equals to 25 as a variable name, and just if I hit enter, now that is assigned to e. Now here you can write 24.3 as a b equals 24.3, and it's again the value statement in Python, and again I can write here x, y, z, and again hit enter. So if you want to check the data type of any variable in front of you, then you can check it simply by the type function. For example, if you want to check the data type of a, then you can print it out, print type of a, and now it will display the type of that variable. So here the type of a is integer. If you want to display the type of b, then you can simply use the type function and insert that b. Now you can check the type of that, which is the float. Now in case of c, again you can check the type by type function, and here you can see the type of it is string kind of variable. So this is how we can check the type of each and every variable available with us. Now most importantly, once I declare any variable a is equal to 25, and after that if I do a equals to 24.3, this time the type of a is changed. Unlike other programming languages, if the a is initially configured as integer type of variable, and then if you try to assign some floating point number, so it will not take that number, it will just round up that number, or it will check just the whole part, and the fractional part will be ignored. But as it is Python, so it automatically assigns the data type, and this time its data type is float. So we can check it or cross verify it by the type function. The type of A, initially it was integer type of data, after that it is assigned with some floating point number. So this time the type must be changed to floating point number. So here it is. So finally the type of A is floating point number. Not only this, even you can assign A equal to 25, then A equals to 24.3, and then A equals to, let's say, hello. This time if you want to check the type of A, this thing, you will get it the string. Okay, so this time the type of A is string. So additionally you can write a print function also inside that type of A. So it is what is happening here, the data type is automatically assigned. You need not to declare like this int A equals to 25. So this was the case in case of the C language or any other programming language, that you have to define the data type of this variable. So this is integer type of variable. But in case of Python, you need not to worry about the data type. The data type will be automatically assigned, and that will be assigned to that particular variable based on what kind of data you are loading in that variable. So that is an interesting thing in Python that will simplify the data type handling or the declaring a type of variable. Now it is one of the important things that this is how the automatically data types are assigned to the Python variables. But can we manually set the data type? Yes, it is also possible that you can set A equals to int let's say 25. You want to assign this thing to it, and after that if you can print the type of A, so it is of the integer type. After that if you write A equals to 24.3 and you just write type of A, then it's floating point number. So this is how you can set the manually some type. Or for example, if you write another number of floating point and then if you want to check the type, then this time it becomes float. But if you declare like this int and then 24.3, and then if you try to assign it, and if you want to check the type of this variable, then this time it is of integer type. And if you want to print the A, this time it is 24, not the 24.3. So this is an interesting thing. So automatically when you assign a type like this, so it will check, the Python will check the type of this data. As this number is integer of type, so automatically this variable will be of integer type, and this is the floating point data or fractional number, so automatically the type of A will be float. As this is string kind of data, so automatically the type of A will be string, and here it is reflecting. And when we declare or manually set the type of that variable, and inside that if you put any number, then that will be treated as integer only. Its type will be integer. So here in this case, if this was written without this int, then the type of A may be the float, or it could be the float. But this time, as I am writing here int, and then there is 24.3, which is floating point number, but it is now converted to integer, and now the type of A is of integer type. And if you want to print that number, then this fractional part is ignored. So the value of A is 24 in this case. So this is how we can set data type of a particular variable manually, and otherwise automatically some data type is assigned based on what data you are storing in that variable. In case of other programming language, you have to define the data type to that particular variable, like int A, float B, character C, and so on. But this is not the case with Python. So interesting thing in case of Python. Now we'll discuss the very first data type in Python, that is numeric data type. So when I talk about the numeric data type in Python, or otherwise I'll show in the presentation, the numeric data type in Python, which is having three different subtypes, that is integer type, floating type, and the complex number type. So generally in daily life we deal with this integer and floating point number, but in complex analysis or in mathematics we have to deal with some complex numbers which is having some imaginary part. But at least we deal with these two data types in daily life, integer and float. So we'll discuss all these data types, integer, float, and complex number. So we'll understand how we can declare some integer type variables in Python. So here I have opened this thing, and now I can declare some integer type number. So a equals to 25 is the integer type of data. Now a equals to, or b equals to minus 100, this is again integer type of data. Even c equals to a very large number. So the Python doesn't have any restriction of or the length of the integer type of number. So it can be positive or negative whole numbers of any length. This is what the Python definition tells us. So if you want to check or verify the data type of this a, b, and c, simply you can print the type of this a, and here we go, it is integer. If you want to check the type of b, here we go, again it is integer. And if you want to print the type of c again, so here we go, it is again of integer type. Even it can be a negative number, it can be a number of any length. Only condition is that it should be a whole number, should not be having any floating point or decimal point. Okay, so this is what the integer data type will look like. So any length can be positive or negative, and its type will be integer. Now how we can define some floating point numbers? So here we go, we can define floating point numbers like 24.3, then b equals to minus 20.4, and then likewise c equals to minus this thing, long thing, and then this thing. So if you want to verify the type of these variables, so you can check the type of a is float, as it is 24.3, but the number b is negative. So can it be a float number? Yes, it can be a float number, and as it is the negative number but having some decimal point, so its type is also the float. The other number is looking quite large, and we'll try to print the type of that as well. So the type of c is again the floating point number. So this is how the floating point numbers are declared. Not only this, the floating point number also follows some scientific notations. For example, a, then I can write 2e2. Now if you want to check this number or the type of it, then simply I can write like this, and it is floating point number. Now what is this? 2e2. So it is 2 into e raised to 2, or 10 to the power 2. So meaning of this is 2 star 10 to the power 2. That is the meaning of this number, and this is the floating point number. So this is the exponential term, and this is the mantissa of this particular expression. So if you want to print a, so it should be 2 into 10 to the power 2, so it should be 200. Okay, so because 10 to the power 2 is 100 into 2, so that should be 200, and here we go, and more precisely it is 200.0, as it is floating point number. It is not the integer kind of number. Even you can declare a equals to 1.4 e. Even you can write a capital E as well, e to the power 2. And here we go, if you want to print this thing a, then here will go the answer to this question, that will be 140.0. That is 140.0. At 1.4 into 100, that means 140, and as it is floating point number, it should be 140.0. Now let us verify whether it is the floating point number or not. So we can print the type of A, and here we go, it is the floating point number. Even this thing can be the negative. For example, minus 1.4 e to the power 2, and let us assume some variable like b equals to this thing. So as I said, some positive numbers having non-fractional terms, like here the 2 is not having any decimal point, but still it is the floating point number as it is written in scientific notation format. And again, in this case, it has got some floating point number, the fractional part, so that's why clearly it is the floating point number. And this e can be capital also, so here we have tested this thing, so it is again the floating point number, and also we have checked the type of it. This time we are trying to deal with this number, and this is the fractional part but having the negative sign, so will it be the floating point number? So as far as I hit enter, there is no error, so this is grammatically and valid statement in Python. So if you want to check the type of this thing, again you can check by the type function, and it is floating point number. If you want to print the value of b, it should be minus 140.0 as it is floating point number, and here we go, it is minus 140.0. Now this is all about the floating point numbers in Python. Now there is next category of numbers, which is the complex number, and they are denoted like this: 1 plus or minus 2j or something like that. Now we'll understand what exactly this is. So this is the real part of any complex number, and this is the complex part of the the imaginary part of complex number. So from this we can actually find out the phase of the amplitude or the absolute value of this complex number. So you can find out the phase and the absolute or the magnitude of this complex number. So there are some mathematical expressions to calculate that. But if I declare the number like this, a equals to 1 plus 2j, so is it the valid statement in Python, or it's going to generate some error? So that we'll check. So when I'll hit enter, it's not going to generate any kind of error as it is the valid Python statement, and this term actually represent the complex data type in Python. So if it is the complex data type in Python, so when I'll write print a, it should display the type, or sorry, not the type, or it will print the complex number. So here it is printing the complex number, but if I write print the type of this a, it should not print the integer and float as it is the complex number, so it must print the complex number as the type. So here we go, the type of this variable is complex number. So this is the variable of complex number type. So if I declare even a equals to 2j, and again if I want to check the type of this a, it should be the complex number only, as it is not having the real part, so that means it is 0 plus the 2j. Even if I write minus 2j, so will it be a complex number? Yes, it will be a complex number. Again I can check the type of that, and again here we go, the type as a complex number. Now this is all about the complex numbers. So we can have some positive terms as well or some negative terms, and it must be having this j part, this imaginary part. So if the number is having this imaginary part, then that will become a complex number. Now many times in programming you need to convert from one type to another. For example, you must go from string to integer, or from floating point number to the integer type of number, or from the integer you need to go to floating point number, or from the complex number you must go to the integer type of data, or from the integer type of data you may need to go with the complex number. Such process of changing the type or from converting from one type to another type is known as typecasting in programming, and this facility is available in almost all programming languages. So we are talking about typecasting in programming. So what is typecasting? In a simple language, converting from one type to another. For example, converting integer to float, so that will need a typecasting. From float to integer, again you need a typecasting. So we'll understand what is typecasting in Python. For example, if I had declared a is equal to 20. So if you want to check the type of this variable a, then you can check it by simply type of a function, and here we go, it is integer type, so nothing new in it. For example, if I want to write b equals 2, now I want to assign this 20 into time, its type should be float. So simply you have to write the float and then in bracket a. So here in this case I have assigned the value of a to b, but as a was integer and I want b to be the float, so in this case the value stored in the b will not be 20, it will be 20.0. so here we go. So here you can notice the clear difference. So a was 20, I have assigned, I have checked the type of that, it is integer type of variable, and now I have changed the type of a to float, and now that is assigned to b. So this is nothing but typecasting. Okay, we are changing this a to float, and after that it is assigned to b, and now if I want to print that b, it will be 20.0. Now we'll check whether the typecast is successful or not by printing the type of b. So here if I print the type of b, so here we can notice it is of floating type number, so it is clearly a floating point number. So then if I declare a is equal to 24.3, and if I write b equals to int a, and then if I print the a, it will be 24.3, and if I print the b, it will not be 24.3 as the a is floating point number, but it is typecasted here, and now that is converted to integer and it is assigned to b. So during this typecast the value will change to 24 from this 24.3. now we are expecting 24, not 24.0, we are expecting 24, indicating that it is of type integer. And if you want to verify whether the type has actually changed, so you can check the type of a, which you will get as a float, because this number is of floating point. Now here the typecasting has done, so the type of b must be integer. So if you print the type of this b, you will get the integer as an answer. Now this is also true for the complex numbers as well. For example, if I declare complex number a is equal to 1 plus 2j, now it's a complex number. You can verify its type by writing this type function, and you can also print the a, that's fine. So it is, and if you want to assign a b equals to let's say int of a, and it's not actually converting from the complex to integer. Okay, now this is actually the error, but logically we have made some mistakes. So any complex number cannot be converted to the integer format, as it has got some imaginary part, and we can't actually convert this imaginary part to the complex number. So actually we can't skip this real or this imaginary part. That's why it is throwing this kind of error. So this was the logical mistake that we were doing here. So we were converting this complex number to integer, which is not possible. But if you declare any number, mathematically it is not possible. That's why it is throwing that error. The type error can't convert complex to int. But if you declare a is equal to 25, and if you want to check the type of this thing, then it is integer. And if you want to convert to complex a, so here there is no problem. And if you want to print the b, now it will be a complex number 25 plus 0, and there is no imaginary part. So if you want to cross verify the type of the variable b, it must be the complex one, and here we go. So it is complex. So this is one thing. Now secondly, if I can't convert this complex number to integer type, so can I get some absolute value of this number? Yes, definitely we can get. So that we can get by some absolute function. For example, if I declare a is equals to 1 plus 2j, this is the complex number, and I want to get the exact value or the integer value for this number, which is nothing but the absolute value. So you can write b equals to abs is the function absolute value, so absolute value of any argument, so a, and if you want to hit enter, and if you print this b, now this will be a absolute value of this complex number, which is 2.23. Okay, so it is under root of 1 plus 1 square plus this 2 square, or that formula is there, as you know that formula. So this is the formula, the mathematical formula that is implemented inside this absolute function that will convert any complex number to this magnitude. So this is nothing but the magnitude of this complex number. So this was all about the data types in Python and some numbers. In the next lecture, we'll discuss about the other data types in Python like string, list, tuple, and so on. So stay connected with me, and thanks for watching.